Welcome, fellow photogs, to another video sharing Photoshop techniques. Remember that these are just the ways that I figured or learned how to do these things, and you are always encouraged to explore other methods. Most of these videos are made when someone asks me how to do something they've seen in one of my photos. Since we're all in this together, I encourage anyone with alternate, especially better ways of doing these things in the digital darkroom to mention them in the comments or send me a note about it here, so we can update or redirect this video. That link can also be found below. Sometimes the sky in one of your photos is just bland and seems to detract from the wonderful feeling you had while taking the shot. Replacing the sky is often easy, and as mentioned, there are many ways and many different programs to help you do it. This video will address stitching panos and changing skies that have a reflection. We'll go from these 9 vertical raw images to this image taken at Martha's Pond in the Pinelands of New Jersey. The first thing we'll do is prepare the raw files for stitching. Sounds kind of doctory, huh? Anyway, I always start in Bridge and then highlight all of the images and right-click on any one of them and open in Camera Raw. For info on how the files are named when downloaded and the Bridge part of my workflow, click on my name below this video and find the Raw versus DNG video. Each of the images is automatically treated to a preset I use for every file opened in Camera Raw. So they all have clarity at 23, vibrance at 11, and lens profile correction under this tab here. Since we'll be stitching all 9 of these into the same file, we aim at making them all a bit more compatible with each other. Often you'll want to tweak each of them to different techniques to accomplish that, but here I'm just going to select one, hit Control A to select them all, and then just apply some changes that I've looked at before making the video. I'm taking the highlights to -27 and the shadows to 69, and that seems to work for all of them, at least for our purposes here. Now we want to save these new DNG files different than the originals. It's probably not a necessary step, but it's what I do. You click on Save Images, and when the dialog box opens, I make sure they're saved in the same folder to make it convenient, and I make sure they're saved as a DNG file, and then I keep the same name, and I just add a 1 at the end of it. When you're done, just push Save, and you'll see them being saved over here. And when that is done, just push Done. And you'll notice they'll all in the same conveniently located folder. Now we just select all those named with a 1 by highlighting them. And once we get all 9 in, we go up to Tools, Photoshop, Photo Merge. And in this dialog, I'll hit Reposition, keep it for blend images together, and also add content aware fill transparent areas. And then I'll hit OK. And after Photoshop does its magic, you'll see layers like this. You can change any or all of the layers if you need to, but here you can see the software did a pretty good job of lining everything up. Of course, it's always recommended you take more time than these videos do to perfect your image, but I just want you to see the process highlighted here. And to load the replacement sky, just go to File, hit Place Embedded, navigate to where you have it. I've pre-selected this one. When you find it, hit Place, and it'll open on a new layer. When it opens, it's already set with the free Transform tool, so you can hit the Shift button and drag the corners to keep the same aspect ratio. If you ever lose your corners, you can always hit Control-0 and find them again. Also a good idea to keep the opacity lower, at least initially here, so you can see where it's going to land on your image. So I'm going to drag this one here without concern for keeping it on the same aspect ratio. You'll know how to do it yourself when you do it yourself. But for now, I'm just going to stop talking and add it right there. I'll hit Enter and keep it at that location. Now, since we'll be using the same sky in reflection, we'll drag it down to copy that layer. Then go up to Edit, Transform, and flip it horizontally. Then simply drag it into position on the below. It's not always where you just line up the bottoms together, because it depends on where you stood when you took the images to see what's going to work best in the reflection. And again, I'm talking too much to illustrate a point, so I'll just commit it there, hit Enter, and be done with that. Now what we want to do is to select the parts of the original that we want to replace. So temporarily I'll take off the two sky layers. I'll go up to select and do as I've always done in other videos. I'll select with the color range. Now keep in mind there's plenty of ways to do selections, but this is the one I'm using now. And it's quite easy. Just select the parts on the image that you want to replace, or on this little box over here with the image in it. You can add or subtract as you need to, but once you have it, you press OK, and I like to go in and save it. So I'll save it as sky, so we can load it when we need to, which will be very soon. So let's start by adding the sky back in. And since the selection is already on, all I need to do is make sure I'm on that layer, and then add a mask to that, and it will automatically take out what I don't want. Now we want to do the same thing with the reflection layer, so we'll reapply that. And since it was the same selection for both layers, all we need to do now is copy this mask to the reflection layer. So I hold down the Alt key and drag it up there and copy it onto that layer as well, and it's done well. Well, that's it as far as the intent of the video, that is replacing skies in the reflections and making panos. But to give you a comparison between before and after, there's a few other things I'd like to do. I'll make sure the top layer is active, and I'll hit F2 to apply some actions I use to tweak most photos. How to make actions and how and when to use them is not necessary to learn what we're discussing, which is making panos and replacing skies with reflections. If you want to know more about anything I can help with, let me know through comments below or a message at my website. So here we have 3 layers labeled linear contrast, darker, and lighter. They all load with a mask, so I can lessen some of their effects. Making sure the brush tool is active and black is selected, I'll select the mask and then brush away any areas of the image that I don't want to be brighter. Then I'll do the same thing on the darker area, highlight it and take out anything that I might want to. Again, these are all a matter of taste and not important to follow for this video. When I'm done with that, I'll make sure I'm on the top layer and then hit F12, which will load other actions that I have saved, and then I'll save the file. If you want to save the file in Photoshop for later processing, you'll likely have to save it as a large Photoshop file because it will be larger than 2 gigs. Well, that's it. Here's the stitch photo without the sky and other changes, and here it is with. You've noticed I've added a couple of geese just to fill in some space up there. But overall, if you look at from corner to corner, and I won't drag you through the whole thing, but if you look from corner to corner, it did a great job of stitching. I didn't do such a great job of photographing, perhaps, but the program did a fine job of putting it all together, and that's it. Hope you enjoyed this video, which means you got something useful out of it. Visit my website at parksphotos.com. Download my books on Amazon. And you can also contact me through my website. Thanks. Enjoy whatever happens.